Have you ever thought of yourself or been called blind as an INFJ? Why do people sometimes think of INFJs as having a hard time seeing obvious things around them? Stick around for today's show to find out. I've mentioned on previous shows that there have been occasions where when the lights are turned out at night and I'm walking around the house, I walk into doors or I miss light switches that are in the same place all the time, everywhere. Whereas my wife really enjoys that sort of thing, walking around at night. She knows where everything is. And it's for a particular reason. I don't know if you've ever had an experience like what I'm describing here, but let's take a look at why this happens to a lot of INFJs. First off, it's important to keep in mind that every personality type has strengths and every personality type has blind spots or weaknesses. So you can't be great at everything. We all have a different perspective. And INFJs in particular, when you take a look at their function stack or the mindsets that make up their personality, which everybody has four of those, then they're arranged in a hierarchy from strongest to weakest. The top of that function stack is introverted intuition. So INFJs are really good at intuitive tasks. They love thinking big picture. They love problem solving. They love creating. They love recognizing patterns, asking why, what motivates people in particular. And then at the end of their function stack, what they're not very good at is sensing activities. So they're not as good at recognizing details. I was just at the chiropractor today, and they asked me to fill out all the paperwork where I have to remember details about what medicines I'm taking and how many milligrams each one is, and when this date was, this random date here and that random date there. I mean, I could do it, but it's kind of a stressor, and it takes me a long time, and I often forget and have to look it up on my phone. And we all do that to some extent. We have phones to help us with that, but I know other sensing types are pretty good at remembering those sort of details and actually thrive on specifics. And we actually, as INFJs, can do a good job of specifics, but not random specifics. We're better when we can relate them to the big picture, to the whole, to a pattern, to a theory or something like that. So just having to deal in specifics can be hard, but sensing also relates to what we can recognize in the concrete world around us using the five senses: taste, touch, smell, sight, hearing, anything that's immediately visible that we take at face value. Colors. Did you see what she was wearing today? Someone might ask. Did you hear that in the distance? Is that a dog barking? Is the neighbor upset? Did you see the car crash down the street? How tall was that person? I often think about intuitives and sensors, and this is an illustration from a book that I read. Intuitives at the site of a car crash will note general feelings and things that may have happened, but sensors are really good at nailing the specifics. Oh, it was a light blue car. There was one driver, and the left tire was a bit flat. The number on the back was Z57IO2. I don't know. They could give you those sort of details, whereas if I were to be asked, hey, what happened at the car crash? I'd probably be somewhat oblivious. I mean, I could just tell you there was a car crash and it was pretty upsetting and people around were scattering. But as far as the details are concerned, I think it'd be a horrible witness. And that tends to be the case for intuitives who aren't as tuned into the sensing function in their function stack. So the sensors are really honing in on what's happening around them and the concrete details. About 70% of the world, it's suggested, is made up of sensing types, people who are paying attention to what's around them without asking about why it's happening or thinking creatively about how to bring something into existence that isn't already existing. They like to do things with their hands a lot of time and get a really practical result. And if there's no tangible practical result, they're not as motivated to get involved in whatever the activity is. They want to make sure they can see it, smell it, taste it, so on and so forth. Let me give you a quick example of another time when I completely blew this. Not long ago, it was my birthday, and my wife and son had just decorated the wall in our kitchen and hung a happy birthday sign. It was pretty obvious, like bright reds and blues and colors that I should notice really easily. I'd come in from work, and when I come in from work each day, set my bag down and fill up my water bottles. And I have a little routine that I go about. And it was probably mulling something over in my mind, as you probably do when you're just driving around. And I'd come in, I said hi because I wanted to make sure the relationships are good, and I was off to the next task. Um, and my wife asked me, "What do you think?" And I thought, "What do I think of what?" And she said, "The decorations we put up." And the wall is literally right in front of me, just coated in different bright birthday colors. And I saw it when she pointed it out to me, and it was so obvious, but I'd missed it altogether because there was no need to look at the wall. I was going on to the next activity because I was engaged in those introverted intuition thoughts, those thoughts about what I should plan for the future and why things are happening. Maybe mulling over the book that I was just listening to or the podcast I was just listening to in the car. So I hadn't tuned in the part of my brain that was heavy into sensing like hers is all the time. And she shook her head and she's like, "How did you not know that?" No, she knows me and she's understanding personality a lot better. So she was really gracious about it. But we're so different in that most of the time she's taking in cues and observations about her physical surroundings. It hit me the other day as I was driving down the road that other people, when they're driving, are constantly just making observations about the world. And this may be a duh thing for you. You're really aware of this, but I just stopped and got in someone else's shoes for a minute and thought, if I was a sensing type, I would just be paying attention to every building and every person and where he or she is and what he or she is doing and how this product gets from here to there. And of course, it depends on the type of sensor you are. Like if you're a sensor with feeling, you're probably going to be more interested in concrete details that pertain to people and relationships. Whereas if you're a thinker, while you'll still have relationships, you'll probably be more interested in inanimate objects and things that pertain to businesses and how they work, just the practical details of life. But if you're a sensor, you're taking in all these concrete things. So it's not a surprise then that intuitives may not be as good with directions because we think more generally a lot of the time. Now, it depends again on the type of intuitive and if you're an intuitive feeler versus an intuitive thinker. But just coming down the road and thinking about how a sensor might take in the world and think about where something physically is all the time and just build this incredible map of concrete things. It was kind of an eye-opener for me. And that's the way a lot of people go through the world, just in the same way or in a similar way to how you and I might be mapping out how people are feeling or why people do what they do and what motivates others, or working through some creative ideas or trying to come up with a big picture understanding of how the world works. So I'm saying all this just to encourage you to think about yourself and your strengths and knock it down if you feel like you're missing things that other people are missing. We can only have one strength, and with that strength, and by the way, the strength may also, while being an umbrella strength, include a lot of sub strengths, but I'm saying one area or one function that's really strong, we're going to have some other weaknesses with it as well. And that's okay. You can't do everything. So you're probably asking the question now, what do I do about this? Do I need to fix myself? Do I need to work on anything? I'd say no. I think just be content with who you are and understand what you bring to the table. Again, you're not messed up or broken. You're just bringing a particular perspective. And it's normal for us to hone in on our perspective and do that really well. But then again, be weak in other areas. So just know this about yourself. This is going to be a challenge. And then I'd encourage you, if possible, to work with other people who are strong in this area. You can obviously learn things from other people and do that for sure. And it's good to exercise that sensing part of you. But if you're not great with the details or noticing things in the concrete world, find someone who is, and then realize what you're bringing to the table for that person. You're helping them look beyond the concrete details to the meanings and whys and motivations that cause people to do what they do, and a big picture understanding and brainstorming for the future and all those other great things that are super helpful you're bringing to the table, and they may not even be thinking about them. So you have valuable things to contribute to. Find another person and combine to be a stronger team altogether. And then I also wanted to mention, while sensing isn't at the top of your function stack, but at the bottom, it's still part of your function stack. And your particular flavor of sensing is extroverted sensing. So you probably do notice things, sensing things that maybe other people you know don't. Again, to contrast with my wife is an ISTJ, so she leads with introverted sensing. But at the back of my function stack, I have extroverted sensing. So when we're driving down one of the major interstates that's near our house, I'll often notice all of the hawks and the groundhogs and just that different animal species that are outside. And she's not even aware of that. She's paying attention to different kinds of sensing things like the cars and how level and well made up the road is, where the potholes are. I'm tuned into more of the environment, and maybe that has something to do with my upbringing, but I've always just enjoyed being outside in the outdoors. And I know that's the case for a lot of INFJs. So you do have a strong sensing function. You just might use it in a different way. And you might use it when you're more relaxed or at the end of the day or off and on, when you probably will be using introverted intuition most of the time. So just be aware that you do have sensing capabilities, but they just might come across a bit differently. And then I'd encourage you to engage them, because it can be a great source of relaxing. But ultimately, just remember, as always, that you're not messed up or broken. You have gifts that this world needs. Just understand yourself and work together with others. Thanks so much for checking out this video. I hope that it helped you. If you'd like to learn more about your INFJ personality and you haven't yet grabbed a copy of my book, The INFJ Personality Guide, I'd love to give you a free copy. The book will teach you about the mindsets and motivations that cause you to do what you do, as well as some common INFJ challenges and solutions to those challenges. But as I've already said, ultimately, hopefully it'll help you come away with an understanding that you're not messed up or broken, but just different, and the world needs the gifts that you bring to the table. You can grab a copy of the book one of two ways. First, consider texting the letters INFJ to the number 444999. Or you can visit ispeakpeople.com/INFJ-personality-guide. And you can find both that number and the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for watching today. If you haven't yet subscribed, I'd encourage you to hit that subscribe button and join us on a regular basis. There are videos coming out just about every week covering topics related to the INFJ personality and helping you better understand yourself or someone you know. Looking forward to seeing you on the next show.